All right, welcome to the next section here in the course. We're going to be talking about camera basics. So we already learned how to import images and display them. Now we're going to be talking about how we can actually get the user to select a photo from their library or take a live action photo. So this is the basic 3 steps that we're going to follow. First, we're going to learn how to allow the user to take a photo. Next, we're going to learn how to take that photo that the user just took and display it on the screen. And then finally, we're going to follow up with accessing the user's photo library so they can take a picture that, they took at some earlier point, but have it show up inside of your app. So let's go ahead and start first with the user photo. Again, we want to get access to a user's camera. And so we're going to launch something called an ImagePicker. Show you all the different tips that you need in order to get that working correctly. And we're also going to have to ask a user for their permission to say, hey, can this app use your camera? And they get to say yes or no to that. We're going to be talking about Apple's permissions and what those look like. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we need to allow a user to be able to take a photo. And we don't want it just when they open up the app that all of a sudden, boom, it's asking them to take a photo. Rather, we'd like it for there to be some sort of button for them to say, you know what, now I'm ready to add a picture or something like that. So we already have here on our storyboard a UI image view where we can eventually display the photo to the user. So let's just go ahead and add a button below this so that the user can tap on that and say, now I want to go add an image. So we need to go ahead and search for a button, and we'll go ahead and just drag one of those out. We want it to be below this image. Maybe we'll say that this should be centered. And then I'm going to select, while this button is selected, I'm going to hold down Control and do a click drag to this image and say there should be some vertical spacing between the two of those. Now, button isn't the greatest name for a button, so I'm going to double click here and have this maybe say add photo, just like that. And maybe let's be even more specific because we're going to learn how to let the user take a picture just live right there in front of us. And we're also going to learn how to let the user go ahead and actually select one from their existing library. So we're going to double click this and change this to say take a picture. Okay, so now that we've got that in place, we need to write an action for this so that we can run some code when they tap on this button. So let's go ahead and do the split screen here. We're going to take this button and I'm going to do a control drag into the view controller here, and I'm going to change this to be an action, and I'm going to go ahead and call this take photo tapped. All right, so we'll go ahead and connect there. So now let's go ahead and go check out our view controller code. I'm using this dusk format right now. I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit bigger so that you'll be able to see this. Go to Xcode Preferences. If you'd ever like to change this, I'm a really big fan of dusk personally, but for teaching, I like to do it bigger at this presentation size so that you can see exactly what it is that I'm doing here. So we're not going to need this did receive memory warning, so let's go ahead and delete that function. But let's talk about the steps that we need in order to make it so that the user can then take a photo. And there's this great bit of code that Apple has written called a UI image picker. And basically, the UI image picker allows us to very simply let the user go take a photo or select one from their library. And they've made a great looking couple of view controllers that handle all that functionality. And at the end of the day, it just passes us back, the developer, an image that we can work with very simply. So in order to use this, we're going to go ahead and first add a variable for an image picker. And so you can name this whatever you want. I'm just going to call mine very simply image picker. So I'm going to say image picker is equal to a new UI image, and then we want picker controller, just like that, and go ahead and do the open and close parentheses. So we're actually creating a new UI image picker controller object and saving it here as a variable. So now that we have that in place, the next thing that we're going to want to do is set up here inside of the view to load that the image picker's delegate is this view controller, saying that this is where it should look to for information. It needs the delegate to say, after the user has successfully selected an image, who is it that I should go and talk to, all that good stuff. So we're going to type out image picker dot, and then we are going to say delegate and say that this should be equal to self. Now, when we go ahead and do this, we're going to get some errors here because it's going to say, hey, this isn't a proper delegate for this. So we're going to have to specify here after a UI view controller, we're going to say comma, UI ImagePicker controller, go all the way out, and then we want to add on to the end of that delegate. So the whole name there, UI ImagePicker controller delegate. I know, really long. We also need to add one more. You'll notice if we just do this that it still isn't happy. We have to add also a UI navigation controller. There we go, delegate. Okay. So with those two things in place, now the image picker says, okay, I can properly specify that this view controller should be the delegate for this. But then the next thing is, well, how do we actually launch this whole UI to make it look like, you know, we want to go ahead and take a picture? All right, so in order to take a photo, this is what we're going to have to do. The first thing is we're going to access our image picker, and we're going to tell it what type of image that is that we want to grab. Do we want to allow the user to go take a photo? Are we trying to get to their photo library? And so we're going to say source type, imagepicker.source type, and then we have to set this equal to an appropriate source type. And you can see when we type out source type here, it's giving us of type UI ImagePicker controller source type. Wow, isn't that a mouthful? But if we go ahead and just do the source type here, we can say this is equal to dot, and when you do the dot, it's going to set up all the possible options that you could add in here. So like camera, photo library, and the save photo album. So for now, we want to learn how to allow the user to take a live camera photo. So we're going to set this equal to camera, saying we want, when the image picker shows up, that allow the user to take a picture. Then what we want to do is we want to present this image picker as the next view controller. So this is essentially the same thing as segueing to another view controller. Just in this situation, we created the view controller that we want to move to programmatically here, and we're doing the segue again programmatically. So just go ahead and type out present here, and then it's going to ask, you know, what view controller is it that you want to present, and we want to present the image picker that we had before. Do we want this to be animated? True. Yeah, I think that'll make it look nice. And then for the completion, do we run any code when this is finished? No, we don't want to run any code, so we'll just put nil there. Okay, so that's actually all the code you need in order to check this out. We still need a couple of steps in order to get this to work properly, but I'd like you to see what this looks like. Now, in order to see what this code looks like, you have to test this on a physical iOS device. So if we have here in our simulator list the iPhone 8 and we try and run this, we're going to get a big error, and it's going to say, hey, basically, the simulator doesn't have a camera. You have to test this on a real physical iOS device. So if you want to test your app on a physical iOS device, there's two things that you got to do. So one is, you know, have the device, plug it into the computer via USB, all that jazz. But then you need to go to Safari and open up developer.apple.com. And this is the website where you can create an account that allows you to get access to all of Apple's developer things. There is a paid version of this if you want to put your app in the App Store, but if you just want to test apps on your computer, you can get the free developer account that doesn't cost any money. And again, just developer.apple.com. Do this in Safari. I've noticed in other browsers it really doesn't work that well. So go ahead. If you already have an Apple account, just enter your existing Apple account there, and it will put it through the whole developer process. Once you've done that, come back to Xcode, and then go up here to Preferences. Under Accounts, go ahead and hit the plus button here to add your Apple ID that is now part of the developer program. Once you've done all of that, your phone should show up here in the options as a device that you can simulate on. For example, mine's called ZappyCode's iPhone, so I can go ahead and pick that there, and then now I can go ahead and run this device to see what the code looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the video quick. I'm going to set it up so that you can see what it looks like on my device. And if you're wondering, hey, I don't have an iOS device, can I still check this out? Yes, you can. You're going to have to sort of wait until we get to the third video of the section where I show you how to access the user's photo library. You can do that on a simulator, but just go ahead and follow along if you don't have this, and I'll show you how to do that in that third video. So let me go ahead and bring in my iOS device. So you should be able to now see my iOS device. Here in Xcode, I'm going to go ahead and select my iPhone, whatever your iPhone's name is, go ahead and choose that, but then just go ahead and hit the run button here. So this is going to add the app onto your actual physical device. And let's see if you're getting any errors here. Let's see what we've got. Oh, so one more thing here. Go ahead and select your project, in this case, Image Fun, and under Team here, under General, we want to choose whatever the name of your developer account is. If you've added that properly via Preferences, you should be able to go ahead and select that. And now with that in place, I'm going to stop the previous build. Let's go ahead and run this one more time. And this should do everything. It's sort of packaging up the app right now, and then it's going to go ahead and put this on the iOS device so that we can see what it looks like. So here comes Image Fun. You can see it just added that app, and we should see that first little image view showing up, and then that button to take a picture here. So I'm going to go ahead and select Take a Picture, and you'll notice nothing launches up here, but we did get a message, and this is all about those permissions. So it said, basically, this app has crashed because you haven't asked for permission. And so we're going to go ahead and stop this and talk about how we can do that. So we're going to go over here to our side menu, and we want to open up this info.plist. This is where we can add the information to essentially ask the user for permission to use the camera. And what we want to do here is we want to add a new information into the plist. So up here at the very top where it says information property list, just hit the plus button here and scroll all the way down on this list until you get to the privacy area. And this is all the different things that you can ask the user for in the privacy space. And so we want to ask the user if we can use their camera. So choose the privacy camera usage description. Go ahead and select that. And then over here, you can see it's asking for a string. We have to specify what message do we want to show the user when we ask to use their camera. So the user has to physically say yes to us using the camera. So for example, we might say something like, we need your camera to show your pictures, or something like that. That's a really kind of bland, generic thing, but you want to have as best a description here as possible so that when the user sees this, they will trust your app and give you the okay to go ahead and use the camera. All right, so with that in place, let's go ahead and run this one more time on the phone. Again, I'm going to stop the recording so I can bring in my iOS device. All right, so now that we've got my iOS device here on the screen, we're going to go ahead and hit the run button so we can see what this looks like. And now that we've got that up, I'm going to go ahead and hit this take a picture button. Now you'll notice it immediately comes into the camera, and here you can see my keyboard. I can go ahead and smile for you here. Hello. But one issue that we're going to have here is that when you run this on your device, you should have seen that pop up. Now, for whatever reason, I can't record my screen and have iOS show that pop up. It must be an error or something on Apple's side. But know that that pop-up in the message that we had selected, the one that says we need your camera to show you pictures, right there, that should show up, and if the user hits OK, then this screen comes. So it's pretty cool. We can take a photo. If we don't like that, we can say, retake, and then go ahead and choose another one, and then we'll hit use photo, and it comes back to the screen, but it doesn't really do anything after that, and that's where it's our job now to implement the code to make this work. All right, so now that we know that we can take a picture, there's a little bit more that we have to implement with Image Controller. So we're going to go here to our code, and we need to add a new function here. And basically the function that we're going to add is a delegate function that gets called when a user has taken a picture. So if we go ahead and just start typing out ImagePicker, you can see there's these different options like ImagePicker controller did cancel. But in this case, we want the ImagePicker controller and the one that talks about did finish picking media with info. So this function again gets called when the user has selected a particular image. So the first thing that we want to do, or I guess technically the last thing, is that we're in charge of dismissing the ImagePicker view controller. So we're just going to go ahead and type out here dismiss, and we need to dismiss the ImagePicker controller. We can use the variable that we have here called ImagePicker, but they also provide the same controller as a parameter here. So we could just type picker there, and as far as completion, just put nil for that, but that sort of cancels that out once we have the image that we need. And once we've done this, then the next thing that we need to do, instead of just typing dismiss, what we wanted to do was go to the actual picker controller and then do a dot dismiss on that. That would have dismissed our current view controller. So we'll do dot dismiss. Now you can see it's asking, do you want this animated? That's where I'd tried to pass a controller before. And for the completion, just go ahead and hit nil there. So this will get rid of that for us. But then it's right here that we would want to display the photo. Now,